everybody. Welcome to our community education video. Today, I'm joined by Bonnie Stein, who is going to share a personal experience that she had with hospice care. And we're going to be talking about the gift of hospice. So, mentioning hospice and saying hospice is a gift, can you share a little bit about your own personal experience and why you felt that way?
Absolutely. So my dad was 84 when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I have to tell you, my first call was to Hospice of the Chesapeake. I knew that I didn't have to travel this journey alone. I knew there were services that our family could take advantage of through hospice, even if we had made the decision to continue chemo. But once we understood that the cancer was so pervasive and that chemo would not likely yield significant results, my goal and our family's goal became more one of comfort and meaning for whatever time he had left. And so with that, hospice went into high gear. The hospital bed arrived, the walker, all of the equipment, the incredible nurses, the nursing assistants, the chaplain, the social worker. I mean, we felt supported in ways that we didn't even know we needed to be supported. And it was wonderful. And probably the biggest gift, my dad was a very proud career Navy Chief Petty Officer. Wow. He saw duty in Vietnam, Japan, many other Asian countries. And so when Bill Lovelace of the Veterans Group called me and he said, "We'd like to come and do a veterans salute for your dad," I didn't hesitate. I said, absolutely.
So I'm going to pause a second just to clarify, that program is part of Hospice of the Chesapeake. It's not a separate, it's one of the programs that they offer for veterans through the Honor Veterans program. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And so, these salutes aren't easy in the days of COVID. So my daughter and I were able to push his hospital bed up to the sliding glass door, and Bill stood 6 feet outside and began to honor my dad for his service in the Navy and delivered a salute. He thanked him and, did the salute. And to my surprise, because my dad was just a few days away from his passing at this point, his eyes weren't open very much, but he raised his hand to his forehead. Not only did he return the salute, but he didn't put his hand down until Bill released his. Oh. And it was just the most touching moment. And I know that it meant a tremendous amount to my dad, because I wiped away that tear from his cheek. But I felt like my daughter and I both felt that we gave him
what a gift for him, right? Not just, for him, and for you to be able to watch that. What a gift for everyone involved.
It was. And, in so many ways, it lifted my heart to know that I had done that.
Yeah. Yeah, to be able to offer that connection. I mean, I think that it's hard. It's hard. It's hard when someone is at the end of their life. It's hard for them. It's hard for us watching them. But to be able to find a peace that that fills their soul, right? And it sounds like for your dad, it was his military service that really played a significant part in his life.
It was. I mean, his values were his God, country, family, and friends. Mm-hmm. And the military was so much a part of who he was, that to be able to give him that meaning in his last days and to have him feel relevant through this process, and not to mention the most gorgeous lap quilt that the volunteers of the Hospice of the Chesapeake make, that stayed with him and on him until he passed. He wouldn't let us take it off.
Wow.
So thank you especially to those ladies that toil and over that, making these beautiful quilts.
Yeah, time and time again, it is one of those keepsake, significant pieces that volunteers can offer and do for folks that they probably don't even understand the impact, right, that it has on the families that receive them. I really am, Bonnie, grateful for you sharing your experience and your story. I know you've had, through the journey, you had some illuminating moments, like some things that you think people might not understand, or myths or misunderstandings. Can you share a little bit about, from your perspective as someone who has received as a family member the care and support of hospice, what do you think people don't get about it?
I think that people don't understand that hospice doesn't mean you're giving up. Okay. What it means is that you're able to give more to your loved one by providing the best possible care during a very challenging time. It means that you're not alone as the caregiver. You're supported by an experienced team of nurses, doctors, spiritual support, almost anything that you need through this journey. And even after your loved one has moved on, hospice is there for you for the process of grieving and what's normal and how should I feel and how should I be responding and kind of now what do I do? And I really wish that people understood that the sooner you get hospice involved, the better care you're able to provide for your loved one and the more support that you yourself will have and your family will have. And I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. Once the time came and we made the determination to stop chemo, it became difficult to get the oncologist to respond to us when my dad was having issues. And I can tell you they don't respond in the middle of the night, but the hospice doctor did. And he told me exactly what to do. And that was important to me because I wasn't afraid then to take care of him. I wanted to be his caregiver. I didn't want to send him to a nursing home. I wanted to do that. And hospice enabled me to do that for him. And I couldn't have if I didn't have that support network.
I think you bring up a really good point as far as what people don't understand. First of all, a couple of things, that you don't have to wait until the very, very last breath to call in hospice, that it is not giving up. But the second really key piece of that is the level of support for the caregiver, not just the person who is receiving the hospice care. It is for the family, the loved ones, whoever those caregivers are, that hospice really is for them, like for their journey as well, because it is, you know, as you're saying, there's a lot that goes into it. The emotional piece, there's so much that can play in.
Well, and even, you know, his sister was with me in helping to provide care. We kind of take turns at night. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she was losing her last sibling. And the support that she received was just, I mean, she can't say enough wonderful things about how the process was managed, how we were able to really, you know, we were both there holding his hand when he took his last breath. And that is a gift.
Yeah, that is. There's something, I think, really, I agree with you, significant about being able to be there and be with somebody at the end.
And we could tell him we loved him and to say hello to all those that went before him.
Yeah. I'm curious, I want to back up a minute. How was your dad about, what was his feeling when sort of at the transition of, okay, here's my age, here's what the treatment options are. What was his perspective on all of that?
Well, as a family, these were conversations we had. Okay. And, you know, he had always told me that he didn't want, you know, what was more important to him was quality of life rather than quantity. And so he was comfortable with the decision. I don't know that he thought it was going to go as quickly as it did. But what we did, as soon as we made the decision not to continue the chemo, when we came back from the doctors, we sat down and he said, all right, let me tell you everything that you need to know, and we had already talked about this before, but I knew it was important to him to make sure that he told me one more time where everything was, and little things that you don't think about. So like, where is your Navy uniform? Do you want to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery? Where are your medals? All of those things that you don't even think about. And so we had about an hour-long conversation. Wasn't easy, but it was a good conversation. And that too was a gift, because when the time came, I could go into task mode very easily.
You didn't have to think it through. You didn't have to make assumptions.
Yeah. He was very good, and we talked for about an hour, and then we never talked about it again, but I had everything that I needed.
Right. Those aren't easy conversations at all. I mean, not, even in the best of times, but when you're dealing with something that's imminent, like the pancreatic cancer, and knowing it's not responding, or knowing that you don't want to go for additional chemo treatments, that's got to be.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but to have not had it would have been way more difficult, because I wouldn't have had a sense of certainty that I was doing things the way he wanted them done.
Yeah.
And he, career Navy, he was very, meticulous about how he wanted things done. And another gift, I was able to do it in a way. His sister looked at me once the services and everything were over, and she said to me, she goes, I think he would have been pleased. And we both agreed, and that was just yet another gift.
Yeah. I think one of the takeaways too is to have those conversations. They can be difficult, but in the end, everybody walks away with a sense of peace, a sense of, of understanding, and that carrying out the wishes of the one that you loved have been done, right? Like, yeah. Is there any other sort of takeaway from your whole experience that you'd want to share about what happened with your dad? I think the word gift has clearly come up multiple times. I think it's truly the experience that you had, but is there anything else that?
Well, I think, having gone through this, that the onus is on me now to share with everybody what that gift was. Yeah. Because I would hate to think that someone's loved one was going through the end of their life and they didn't know that this valuable resource was there right in our community. Right. And it's just hard to put into words the level of support and just how grateful we are for what Hospice of the Chesapeake brought to us.
Yeah, I am so appreciative of you sharing that, and I'm with you. I think it's one of those things where, the more you can tell people and more sort of help people understand, the key elements. It's not giving up, it's support. It's helpful for not only the patient but the family. Like there's some real key takeaways there.
Well, and it's a scary time because it's not, it's not my realm of expertise what we were going through. And just knowing that that help was a phone call away, it took a level of stress off of me personally. That
you weren't in it alone. You weren't doing this alone.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for sharing your experience and taking time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so very much.
I also want to be sure to thank the John and Kathy Belcher Institute for their generous support of the community education programs at Hospice of the Chesapeake. Thanks.